Alright, let's look at the patch notes. Turn on the lights. We'll put the hood on for extra mysteriousness. Alright. Hello guys, I am Saintvicious and this is the patch 8.5 rundown. Dun, dun, dun. Alright, we got Kaisa. I'm not going to mention her because she's not... I haven't really played her or anything like that. I've seen her videos, but I don't really know like everything about her yet. I don't like going over new champions until I see them in game, so I'm just gonna... I'll skip over her and just go over the actual changes. Azir got his Q nerfed by a Whopperoonie 30 damage. That's actually a pretty big nerf, to be honest. That's actually a pretty sizable nerf. I think that this is gonna push Azir down a lot, and it's gonna like... I think champions like Ryze and Cassio and Anivia and all those kind of other like strange champions that just benefit from all the mana items are gonna kind of take over his spot as like the king mid laner with this nerf. This is a very sizable nerf because I mean, isn't this like per soldier that is 30 damage? So it's like that's actually a lot of damage off of his ability. So I think Azir is gonna kind of, I mean, he'll still be okay, but he'll fall out of the meta a bit. I think it's in competitive. Galio pretty much just got nerfed into the ground. I don't even know why. I thought Galio was strong, but like, I don't know, man. I feel like they should have like buffed him in another area instead of just like hard nerfing his Q to like 2-second longer cooldown, and then they just crank the mana out to like like 130 mana is so much. I don't know. They just nerfed this champion in the ground. It seems like I think he got over nerfed here. I don't agree with these nerfs, but these are like pretty big nerfs. I think that it's gonna hurt him a lot, and he's definitely gonna be falling out as like a priority pick in competitive, just because of this. I don't know. 8-second cooldown on Q is like way too long. Jhin is a weird champion because like pretty much his job is to be like a follow up and pseudo engage ADC with like his W and ultimate. But the problem is that Varus just does like everything he does better and outscales because he has the Rageblade build. And also, yeah, he just gets outscaled. That's like was Jin's problem always. So they kind of like buffed his passive by a Whopperoonie 4% at max rank, which is not really that much, but it's something. And Dancing Grenade now has 10% more total attack damage scaling. That's okay, I guess. Good for pushing the wave, a little bit more damage. Actually, that's a lot because Jhin ends up with like 500 AD, like super fed. So that's almost 50 damage increase to his grenade, which is that's pretty good actually. That's like not a bad buff, to be honest. And then Deadly Flourish, you can now proc it off of literally anything rather than sorry. Before you'd have to like auto or somebody had to auto them. So you have like a lot more situations where you can proc the W, so that should be pretty nice. I think Jhin is... I think these changes will like sort of push Jhin up a little bit into the viable zone. These changes plus the changes that I'm gonna talk about later in this patch rundown are gonna, I think, will push Jhin like up into like a viable champion. Nocturne has a horrible first clear in my opinion for being like a power farm jungler to 6. So these kind of changes are aiming to hit at that, where now he actually has some sustain. He has 15 to 40 scaling on his passive base healing. So that's really good for like rafters and things like that. You can actually gain a lot of health back. Now, and then also like the cooldown got doubled on champions, which doesn't really matter, to be honest. Like usually when you're playing Nocturne, you hit that shit like maybe once per a fight or some shit. So it's not really going to matter that much. But the healing is really big for his first clear. And then Dustbringer, they increased the missile speed, so a little bit easier to hit it in the ganks. That's pretty nice. And then Shroud of Darkness, like if you W mid-air, you will still have it on when you hit somebody. I mean, this is mainly just for people who don't know how to use the W very well, I guess. So, or like time it very well. Maybe it's like too hard for them, so good for them. This will help them out. And now Ultimate also has a longer period of time where you can sit on it before you cast it again. I think these changes will like help Nocturne a decent amount because now you can actually clear and gank. Before you couldn't even clear and gank because you'd be way too low. But now you can like actually power farm in gank, which I think is going to help out Nocturne a lot. But he's still like a very all-in champion, and that's not like a style that fits very well competitive. But I think these changes will push him up into like solo queue viability, whereas before he was just kind of a joke. Olaf's been seeing a lot of play in competitive. Like, I know Peanut played him last night in the LCK, and he went, like, fucking 12-0 or some shit and just, like, dumpstered all over Faker's face. So, I think Olaf is a very snowbally champ, but he has a horrible late game. I've had so many games in solo queue where I've been popping off really hard, and then we just have one bad team fight and we just lose the game because Olaf's scaling is super bad. And if you don't, like, snowball perfectly, then you will just get crapped on. Olaf has like the second worst win rate in the game for junglers also currently. So this is primarily the reason why, is because his late game is so bad. So they buffed his E, where it has a shorter cooldown and a little bit more attack damage ratio, which is okay. And then they made his ultimate. This to me is like a buff nerf. It's like a buff if you build 80 Olaf, and in a side nerf if you build no 80 Olaf, because now it's 30% of his total attack damage. So even like without any attack damage items, Olaf probably has about around like 110, 120 AD at like high level. So, you know, you do 30% of that, it's going to be like 40 damage or so. So that would be 65 damage you'd have like on your ultimate without like building any AD items. And then most Olaf's build what, Black Cleaver, so it's like another 40 AD. So that'll just like barely put you over what it was before. So like once you have some AD items, it'll actually be a buff. But until then, I don't think so. So, but I think maybe Olaf will even build Warrior now, since they nerf Cinderhulk later in the game. I wouldn't be surprised to see some Warrior, like Righteous Glory Olaf builds coming out, or Warrior Black Cleaver, and go more of a damage heavy Olaf build. So maybe we'll see some of that kind of stuff coming out. Rengar currently has the worst win rate in the game out of all the junglers, so pretty much all this stuff is just to kind of help bring him in line. Like, the biggest gripe I've heard with people from playing like all the Rengar mains is that his ferocity doesn't stay on for very long, so they changed that. And the lockout duration on the Q. Like, those are the two things that I've heard are like the biggest like annoyances. Because like, I don't know if anybody's played Rengar, but he just doesn't feel good to play because of this lockout duration. So I think that these changes are mainly aimed at those. Like, just this change alone makes Rengar viable in my opinion. And then they just kind of buffed him overall to do a little bit more damage on the Q, have like better clear, all that kind of stuff. And then most of this other stuff is like quality of life changes. But this change in particular is like the biggest one. So I think this will push Rengar up to viable for sure. So if Rengar presses Q or W during Bola Strike cast time, he'll now buffer those spells and cast them when a Bola Strike completes. So that's just quality of life. And Rengar's True Vision now lingers on his target until the leap completes rather than when the leap starts. So this is just to kind of like, I think sometimes you'll like, if they go into a bush or something, or like they duck out of vision or some random shit, then like you can lose vision to them and just get cucked. So, and then now Ryze is probably in my opinion, the strongest solo queue mid laner out of all the mid laners right now, just because all the man items are so stupidly strong. And yeah, so this is kind of just aimed at nerfing that altogether. I mean, they raised the base damage on the Q, but now the spread damage is nerfed. So this is gonna kind of like change where like you get that juicy bounce on like a big team fight, and it just like cucks everybody on the team. And then they nerfed his ultimate pretty hard. I think Ryze will still be super strong, but I think that, yeah, he's still just gonna be stupid strong. I don't think this is gonna change much on him. Shyvana now her base attack growth has been buffed once again. I think that I don't like Shyvana just because she's like her ganking sucks, and even her scaling is kind of weird. She's like I just don't like Shyvana anymore. She's just like too farm intensive of a champion. She'll probably be good in like lower elo solo queue where you don't have to gank that much, but I think that, I don't know, I'm just not a fan of Shyvana anymore. Just not a big fan. And of course, Skarner became popular recently because his E was so stupid, like long stun. Now it's 1.25 seconds instead of 1.5. I still think that Skarner will be definitely relevant and strong just because he can clear the jungle so fast and he has so much CC. Even without this, like this is like, his E is still strong. So I think Skarner will still be viable, but he won't be like he won't be like the god tier pick of all god tier picks like he has been. Swain is an interesting champion because I think if you give him the right matchup, he's actually really strong. I've seen him like pop off in like certain matchups, but other than that, he's like kind of bad in a lot of situations. Like I think Swain is right on the cusp of being a super good champion, but I guess like he just needs more quality of life changes. So They changed the cooldown on the Q to be lower at earlier ranks, so I guess you can like abuse your lane matchup a little bit more. And then W gives more vision, that doesn't do much. The radius on the E is a little bit better, I guess. A little easier to hit, not too bad. And then Ultimate Demon Flare now passes through champions effects like Yasuo, Windwall, Braum. E still blocks a portion of the Nova they intercept, so it just makes it better to hit your ultimate, you know, through like Braum and stuff like that. I think like, I don't know, Swain is, I feel like he's just right about to be a good, like a good pick. So maybe this is what puts him over. I don't know. I see some Swains pop off and I see some that are useless. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know the hitbox on the W is bigger, but the W is like, I don't know. I've never seen a less impactful spell in the game than the W. Like, that W is like very low impact. I don't know. It's good for getting the shards, I guess, and trading through that. So maybe that'll help. Rocket Jump. I guess they buffed Trist, but they nerfed his. This attack range nerf is gonna put Trist into the grave, I think. Like 25 attack range doesn't sound like much, but it's actually a lot. So I don't know. I think this is gonna hurt Tristan a lot, but we'll see. I think that she's just gonna be overshadowed like by champions like Xayah and like Jinx and things like that. So I don't know. I think that, yeah, she's just gonna be, Tristan will just be an average ADC now. So I don't know. Farewell, Trist. You will not be missed. Twitch is now got his contaminate damage buffed by 20. You gotta remember they nerfed the base damage on it by like a fuck ton 2 patches ago or a patch ago. So this is just kind of like tweaking that back. I think Twitch is still the same champion he's always been, where like he has a really hard laning phase, but if you get like 2 items, he just like auto win the game because he's so broken. So he's just the same fucking champion he's always been. It's like, well, Twitch has 2 items, he just killed our entire team. Like his ultimate's broken. Volibear, Majestic Roar, slightly increases speed but decrease the duration of the knockback. Doesn't matter. Volibear is the same champion. Zoe, I hope they don't buff this champion back. Zoe was so obnoxious. Attack range got increased by 25, not that big a deal. The Paddlestarter got his damage increased by 45. That's actually quite significant. Paddlestarter's base damage is now increased by level, but it has the AP ratio increased a lot. But it doesn't apply the passive. Interesting. So I'd have to see how all the numbers like line up on this, but this definitely seems like the ability power ratio is like getting cranked up a lot. I'm not exactly sure the numbers on the passive and like how much he was missing out on, but this sounds like pretty decent change. And then also like the explosion damage has changed, so maybe she can't clear the wave as well, but seems like Paddlestar got like significant buff, just like the base damage and this got increased. So yeah, probably like harder to clear the wave with her. Spell Thief, matching the buff to Zoe's attack range, enemy lock on range. This isn't that. I mean, it's like a small buff. This is like alright. I think this single target damage is like the main buff. I see the Zoe here. She'll probably be like viable. Like right now she's like complete garbage, and then this will just push her back to viable, I think. Sion basically has the highest win rate for support right now and top lane because the E is like impossible to miss and it does obnoxious fucking damage. So now like you can actually dodge it because it was like twice the hitbox radius or something. And then hopefully this jungle monsters things includes Shelly, because I've had so many times where I'm playing Sion and I'm like, I try to E Shelly into somebody and it doesn't fucking do the damage or slow them, and I'm just like, well, that would have been a kill. So hopefully this also applies to Shelly. Banner Command, everybody knows it's like super broken on this patch. Basically they like crank down the damage a little bit. I think it'll still be a good item. Like it's still probably gonna be good when you have Baron, because it's not like, it was just, yeah, I think even with like a little bit less damage, Banner will still be like super good at killing turrets and doing its job. So this will still be a relevant item in my opinion. Enchantment Cinderhulk got nerfed by 5%. It's a pretty decent nerf to Cinderhulk. I think still Cinderhulk's a great item and tank junglers are still going to be pretty good. I don't think this 5% is going to be the thing that like just destroys tank junglers altogether. I think, yeah. And then Hextech GLP. I don't see anybody building this item on this patch because it was like changed so hard. And they just kind of like buffed it big slow on it and a little bit better base damage, but slightly different ability power ratio. I think this item's going to be a little bit better now, so maybe people actually start building it. The slow is pretty nice. 65% is pretty big slow, so I think some people will build it, like maybe like Aurelion Soul or something. So we'll have to see. Then Warmogs is now 3,000 health to get the passive. Not that much of a change in my opinion. It's still like pretty easy to get to 3,000 health if you build Warmogs because it gives so much health. They made it a little bit easier to last hit with turrets because now like it does a little bit more damage to melees. Like you know how it is when the turret hits a melee minion twice and then you get like that last auto in. Like it just does a tiny bit more damage in case that like you don't have enough base attack damage to get that last hit on that. And that's the main change for that. Cloudrake buff got now it grants 2% bonus movement speed per stack and triple out of combat. I think this is an incredibly big buff, especially for champions that take celerity and water walking. I think Cloudrake will actually be pretty contested now. I think Cloudrake is like arguably I would say the third best. I would say second or third best dragon right now, depending. I think Infernal's the best. Mountain Drake is the best depending on your team comp, if it's like a Baron taking comp and that kind of stuff. And then I would say arguably like this one's the third best, and Ocean Drake is just obviously the worst. So I think that Cloudrake will be super good now. I really like this movement speed buff. Precision dominant stat bonus. So now it gives a little bit more 10 ability power and a whopping 0.680. Wow, great change. I didn't know anything. Press the attack got a minor buff, 4%. This kind of just put it back in line where it was before. I was like so confused. Like they said last patch, they're like, press the attack got a huge buff. You know, like this is it. This is the one that's gonna change everything. It's like, wait, you actually just nerfed the ability. So then like they just buffed it back to what it was. So thank you for buffing Warwick and Jax and like all those other broken champions that have just been using this. So thank you, Riot. Fleet Footwork. This is the big change that I think is gonna put Jhin back in line. Is that all the champions are abusing Fleet Footwork to get safe lane phases and being abusive. Now, maybe we'll not take Fleet Footwork because it's 30% healing instead of 60%. I think maybe ADCs will probably take Press the Attack since it got buffed back again. I don't think they'll take Lethal Tempo. I think in most cases they'll probably just take Press the Attack, which will be probably bad on Jhin, but I think Jhin will just like go Comet or something. Not really sure what Jhin will go, to be honest. Maybe we'll go Comet. Hard to say, really. And then Aftershock got changed to 35-second cooldown instead of 20. Still pretty decent. A little bit worse for top lane. Same for jungle. Same for support. Still okay. Aftershock is so strong. And the Mana Flow band now has a cooldown indicator. Who cares? And then everything else is kind of like just, you know, UI changes and stuff like that. So hope you guys enjoyed the patch rundown. That's it.